डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन युनिव्हर्सिटी.
Hello friends, Namaskar. I, Dr. Jaini Shah, Assistant Professor of English from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, heartily welcome you all to this video lecture that the university is conducting for the new course of BA in English. Today I am going to talk about Emily Dickinson and her very interesting short poem, but very intriguing as well as interesting poem, which is called Because I Could Not Stop for Death. So let us begin, and here as you can see is a portrait of Dickinson. On the left, she is an American poet, and she was born in the year 1830 and she passed away in the year 1886. And on the right hand side of the slide is the cover page. It's the front of the poem that we are going to deal with today, that is Because I Could Not Stop for Death. It's a dark image, so dark colors, gray color, and the image signifies that the theme of the poem is regarding death and the afterlife. So this is about the first slide. Now we shall move further and we shall know a little bit about who was Emily Dickinson. So Dickinson, as I said, she was born in America, Massachusetts, United States of America, in the year 1830. Now, as an adolescent in her teen years, she was regarded as a reluctant person. She self-isolated herself, and she was also regarded as an eccentric by locals. She did not like socializing, she did not like meeting and greeting people, and she was also considered eccentric as in having a strange and a typical behavior which is not considered as an usual commonly acceptable behavior by the society. So that was the kind of personality that Dickinson had. But work-wise, her poetries are of highest intellectual merit, and that you will come to know when we talk about the poetry. Now, she had a penchant for white clothing and correspondence. She loved white clothes, shades of white. She did not also like gaiety, bright, dark colors, but on the contrary, she loved wearing white and the lighter tones of white. And similarly, she, as I said, she did not like socializing, so all her relationships with friends or with other family members or extended family, it was based on correspondence. That is, she used to write letters, she used to convey her feelings, her emotions. So she conveyed through correspondence but not face to face. And it is even recorded in her biography that it is claimed that she has written as many as 300 letters to her sister-in-law. So you can imagine the kind of personality Emily Dickinson was. Now, very strangely, only 10 of her poems were published during her lifetime. That is, when she was alive, she has a large corpus of 1800 poems, 1800 poems a person has written. But when she was alive, only 10 of her poems were published. All the other poems were published posthumously, that is, after she died. So this is about her, a little bit of biography. Now coming to her poems, generally her poems were short. They contained short lines. Her poems often used slant rhyme as well as unconventional capitalization and punctuation. So, certain words were capitalized, certain places had punctuations where normally you do not find, but it was her style, right? And she used slant rhyme. Now, what is slant rhyme? The words rhyme based on identical consonants and different vowel sounds. So here I have given you examples. For example, worm and swarm. So she would use these kind of words together to create a slant rhyme. That is, in worm and swarm, you can see the vowel sound has changed, O and A, whereas the consonants W and M have remained the same. Similarly, in the words bad and het, grown and moon. So vowel sounds remain the same, consonants change, and many a times it was vice versa. So her rhyme was also different than other poets. And due to all this, the style of writing, due to all this, her poems were considered unconventional, that is, not as per the standard norms that was acceptable at that point of time. And that may have been a reason. And her personality, her nature of being alone, of not socializing, of not mixing, of not amalgamating, of not with the society, may have been the reasons that instead of having so many of poems to her credit, only 10 of her poems were published during her lifetime and rest were published later on. Themes that are commonly found in her poems are nature, love, identity of self, death, immortality. So obviously she wrote about the concepts, the ideas that were known to her, as well as she wrote about the ideas and the concepts which intrigued her, which forced her to think about not the common things but uncommon things which are peculiar but yet universal to humankind, such as nature, sun, moon, etc., love, identity of self and the layers of self, the psychological identity of the self, emotional identity of the self, death, which is the bitter truth of life, immortality, afterlife, eternity. These are the themes that she explored in her poems. Now, quickly coming on to her works, she was a poet, so all her works are poems, and 7 volumes of poetry have been published posthumously from the years 1890 to 1945, and manuscript books, that is, she used to write her poems with pen, so the exact manuscript has also been published posthumously in the year 1981, almost we can say after a century of her death. Then the other 2 texts which are commonly found nowadays are variorum editions. 2 variorum editions have been published. Now, what are they? Variorum is a collection of all known variants of a text. So Emily Dickinson wrote her poems which were untitled, had hyphens, unconventional pattern. Now those poems were edited, and another version of her poems has also been published. And variorum are those texts which had original as well as the edited version. So all the versions of the poem have been included in that. So Thomas H. Johnson's variorum edition was published in 1955, which collected all the works of Emily Dickinson. And another version in the year 1998, R.W. Franklin. So these are the 2 edited variorum versions. Moving forward and coming to the talk of the session, because I could not stop for deaths. Now when you look at the title, of course this is not the title, this is the first line of the poem, but it is very simple, right? Because I could not stop for the deaths, and it is actually conveyed to the readers that since I could not stop for deaths, then what happens? So the journey begins from the first line itself. Now, this poem was published posthumously after Dickinson's death in the collection which was titled Poems Series 1 in the year 1890. And it was published under the title The Chariot. So, since this poem was untitled, in the publication version they gave the title to the poem, and it was titled as The Chariot. But till today, this poem is famous by its first line, that is, because I could not stop for death, rather than the title which is given, The Chariot. Dickinson originally did not title this poem. Now, it is a lyric poetry. Now, there are different forms of poems, such as ode, ballad, and here we are talking about a lyric. So what is lyric? A lyric is a formal type of poetry which expresses personal emotions or feelings regarding a particular topic, and it is typically, so it is spoken in the first person, and it is a formal type of poetry where the speaker it is not necessary that the speaker is the poet, but a speaker who talks about his or her emotions and feelings regarding a topic. That is what is lyric, and this poem is a lyric by Dickinson. It contains 6 quatrains. Quatrains are stanzas of 4 lines. So this poem has 6 4-lined stanzas with the meter which is a mix of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. Iambic tetrameter is a 4 metrical feet per line, and trimeter is 3 metrical feet per line, and iamb is a foot which consists of unstressed syllables followed by stressed syllables. And this poem has figures of speech. Majorly, those are alliteration, paradox, and personification. Alliteration, rhyming is there. Paradox, seemingly opposite ideas, but in due to closer investigation, you find that they are true. They are not opposite, but they provide meaning to each other. They are extensions of meaning of each other. And personification, abstract concept or idea is personified, is given a human character. So here death is personified. Now coming to the poem itself, you can have a look. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. Now, if you consider, this poem is very simply written, but yet it conveys a deeper meaning. Look at the words, they are not difficult to understand, right? And look at the flow. It is very consistent and yet gives a new idea with each line of the stanza. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew, quivering and chill. For only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter then the day. I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. So this is a poem. You can see 4-line stanzas, 6 quatrains, and you can see here very short poem, and hyphens are used, even capitalization and punctuation. The pattern is unconventional. Right, now let us go to the brief summary and the analysis of the poem. So the poem, the surface meaning of the poem is that since I could not stop for death, since I did not stop for death, he stopped for me. The chariot on which death was carrying, the chariot had us both, that is the speaker and the death, as well as the third identity, that is immortality. So 3 persons were there in the chariot. I had left all my work and pleasures behind. Out of respect for this gentleman, since this gentleman was so civil in his behavior, so kind in his behavior, I also, out of respect for him, I also left all my work and my pleasure. And we drove unhurriedly. Now the journey has begun. We went by a school where children played in a circle during the recess time, and we passed the fields of crops which seemed to stare at the setting sun. So we understand that it's the evening time, the sun is setting, and they have passed from the school, then from the field. As sun passed, since the sun is set now, dew was formed, and we come to know from this that I felt shiver and cold. So it's a winter night. I felt shiver and cold as I was only wearing a thin gown and a thin lightweight scarf. She had not much of clothes on her to protect her from the chills, from cold wintry night. Our next stop was a house. Now what kind of house it was? It was partly buried in the ground, and I could just see the roof, and even the ceiling of the house was in the ground. It was covered in the ground. Since the day that I realized that chariot's horses were headed, now the realization has taken place that where this death is, where the chariot is going. So she says that chariot's horses were headed toward eternity. So the journey which began, the destination was eternity, afterlife, and centuries have passed from this event taking place, and yet she feels, or rather the speaker feels, that only less than a day has passed. So little time has passed, but in reality centuries, that is hundreds years have passed, that she took this ride of death. This is the poem. This is the summary of the poem. Now we are going to the analysis stanza wise. Okay, so this is the first stanza, and we come to know that the speaker of the poem, though she is, I would stick to she because it is written by Dickinson and we assume that she is talking about herself. So though she is describing her own journey, but the topic, the concept of death is such that it relates to humankind. It is a universal concept, and so we can say that even the poem is talking about her journey, we can relate it to the entire human race. She declares that she is too busy to think about death. Now, isn't it true about ourselves also? Who thinks about death? We are so consumed, we are so occupied with our own lives, with our goals, with our missions, with our careers, with our families, that with our ambitions, with our dreams, that we do not have time to think about death, though we know that it is inevitable, right? She also is in the similar state. She is too busy to think about death because everyone has the basic instinct of survival is always there. But death never forgets, and it comes after those whose time in this realm is over, whose time in this world is over, those who have served their time on this earth. Death comes for them, and it takes them away with itself. So here, death has come in a chariot, which is a carrier leaded by horses. Death is kind, and it offers a chariot to take her away. Here, she has given an unconventional personification where death is compared to a person who is sitting in a chariot and has come to take her away, and has come to take her away to some place. And this person is very well behaved, he is a gentleman. The speaker says that the chariot has death. Now 3 persons are traveling in the chariot. One is death itself, who is the rider. One is Dickinson, we will assume, the speaker of the poem. And the third entity is immortality. That is the ability to live forever. Right? Though it is not possible, mortals, we human beings are mortals. But she says that immortality also drove with them. That is, we come to know in the last stanza what it means actually. Right? Now coming to the second stanza, she forgets all her pleasures, all her leisure time, all her busyness, all her work. She puts them away out of respect for this gentleman. And this gentleman, that is Death, was in no hurry. He steadily but with firm conviction moves the carriage forward. This description of the chariot ride can be interpreted, it can be analyzed as a smooth passing of the soul after death. It was not in a hurry, and it was passing with firm conviction, slowly. It signifies not the journey of a person, but the journey of a soul, which is going towards death. It signifies that the person has left the world without any struggle or pain, which is happening in this case. Now we come to the third stanza. Now the journey description is there. They pass through various places. The chariot passes through the school where children are playing. Then it passes through the field of grazing of grains, full grown grains, which are gazing towards the setting sun. Now this fruitfulness of grains, it suggests a full womanhood or adulthood or manhood which a person achieves in a lifetime. And these children, they symbolize the childhood of a person. And then we come to the adulthood, and the setting sun symbolizes the old age, the ending of the life. And then one waits in the darkness to take over, and through these 3 various descriptions, a complete cycle of life is described in one particular stanza. Coming to the fourth stanza. Now in the third stanza, last line, she writes that we pass through sun, but then she changes in the fourth stanza, first line, she says rather sun passed us, right? Speaker feels that they didn't pass over, but it was the sun who crossed them. It symbolizes that the speaker is resting somewhere, and it is her soul who is watching the sun pass. It is the soul who is watching the sun set. Rather than they crossing the sun, it is the sun which has passed them. Then there is the realization of shiver and cold due to her gossamer gown, white gown, which is very thin, and lightweight scarf, tulle, which is made of tulle. Now this description of her clothes suggests that it is appropriate for the occasion. The occasion is of taking a ride in a death's chariot. So the clothes also are very appropriate to the theme that she is talking about. So this is what the fourth stanza is. And she's feeling cold and shivering. That is, it suggests that something very dark is happening, and she's feeling very cold about it because her clothes are appropriate for the last journey that a person takes, that is towards death, towards eternity. Stanza 5. After they have passed through these places, the chariot stops. It has come to its destination. The chariot pauses at a house-like structure. Now, what is this structure? It looks like a swelling on the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, and the ceiling too was in the ground. So the ceiling, the roof was also in the ground, and it was what we can say, it looked like a swelling on the ground. So it was so low on the ground. This tells us that she does not use the word grave, but the description of the house-like structure and the journey tells us that she has reached to her grave. The speaker's grave is the place where she rests and watches the world eternally. The journey of the speaker after witnessing the different marvels, setting sun, witnessing the chill winds, witnessing the cold, witnessing the children playing, gazing rain, all of that is happening, and now everything comes to a pause in the grave. This indicates that there is an afterlife for her, for human race, and she must continue her journey forward. So this is fifth stanza. Now coming to the last stanza of the poem, she says that it has been centuries that she has taken this ride. Although it was so many years ago, she feels this memory as fresh as it has happened on that very day. Only a day has passed, but actually hundreds years have passed. She believes that it is the day she died when the horses of the chariot were pointing her towards eternity. Now this ride which had begun, it was meant for eternity, it was meant for afterlife. It is the reason for the inclusion of immortality in the first stanza. Remember, 3 people took the chariot: death, the speaker of the poem, and immortality. As death, though appears to be a gentleman, apprehends the soul for eternity, and one has to journey through without any respite. So though the death is a gentleman, but he apprehends with firm conviction, he captures the soul, and the soul has no option but to obey the calling of the death and go with it. And death also takes immortality along in the ride, because human beings are mortal, they cannot be immortal. They have, since they took birth, they have to die. So this is what the concept of the poem, because I could not stop for death. Now lastly, to share some of the thoughts with you, that this poem deals with subjects such as death, time, the moving of the journey, eternity, and Emily Dickinson deals with them in a simple manner, and the way the death is personified and the whole treatment of the poem is unconventional, right? And her poems are honest, penetrative, intriguing, which forces a person to think about matters beyond life, and psychologically they are stimulating, they are precise, and a great deal of adventure is also included in her very short piece of poems, right? So this is what Dickinson's poems are about. Now sharing with you some of the, since her poems are untitled, Her poems are recognized mostly by the first line of the poem. So here are some of the first lines, some of the poems which she wrote, which are very famous, which you can look up, you can read, since they are very short, very easy, you will understand. But it forces you to think regarding the talk that she is making in the poem. So the first lines are, a bird came down the walk. Hope is the thing with feathers. I am nobody. Who are you? I taste a liquor never brewed. Success is counted sweetest. There is a pain so utter. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Right? Look at the first lines, and you will come to know what kind of personality, what kind of poet Emily Dickinson was. She touched the topics such as hope, identity, success, pain that a human being feels, concept of truths, and how to tell a truth. So these are her poems, her genre, we can say, her forte, her style of writing. Now here are some of the questions to check your progress. Very quickly, write in brief about Emily Dickinson. From this session, you can answer all these questions. Write in brief about the theme of the poem, what the poem talks about. Analyze each stanza of the poem, all the 6 stanzas. What is the tone of the poem? What kind of tone that the speaker has used in this poem? And enlist some of the notable poems of Emily Dickinson. Don't use the similar ones. Find other works. There are 1800 poems that Dickinson has written. Right, now here are some of the references that you can look up and that I have used in making of this lecture for you all. And this is it. Thank you for watching this video, friends. Goodbye. See you around next time. Thank you.
स्वाध्यायः परमं तप